You're welcome back and many thanks for staying. Well, there have been concerns over the importance of a council of state, especially when members are paid within the range of about 13,000 cedis and their opinions or advice are actually not binding on the president. It is a constitutional requirement nonetheless. So yesterday, representatives from across the country were elected. There were some surprises, misunderstandings, and some centers as well. But in the end, the winners were declared. So what do they bring on board? Let's hear them.
Captain of Israel host and guide of all who seek the land above, beneath thy shadow we abide, the crown of thy protecting love, our strength, thy grace, thy rule. Thy way, thy glory of the Lord. Indeed, our end will be the glory of God. I want to thank God Almighty for giving me this opportunity even to be here today. I want to thank the chiefs and the people of the Greater Accra region for even considering me to contest this election. I want to thank the candidates for contesting, and especially I also want to thank the various district assemblies from all walks of life for supporting my this bid. Ladies and gentlemen, this is about somebody who is going to represent Greater Accra region and advise the president and ensure that our region become Greater Accra as our forefathers wanted to be.
Thank you.
I am an entrepreneur by excellence, and I'm going to bring my entrepreneur's case in moving this region forward. I thank all of you for your support.
Thank you.
I can show you tomorrow. I'll have a press conference, and you will know what next. But let me use this opportunity to thank all those who have invested in me. I want to thank my wife, Selassie. This morning she prayed for me, and I want to thank her for all that. I also want to thank everybody in this region who supported me. Thank you, and God bless you.
I'm a farmer, entrepreneur. As we speak, I have investors ready to go. They were here in the crowd. 3 investors from the US. They are ready to go. And also in the US, I'm a businessman. I have employed at least 16 Ghanaians working in my factory. And over here, I have a commercial farm, which I have invested over $1 million. You know, looking at the campaigning that Nanado was doing, he laid emphasis on agriculture. So that's why I contested so hard to win, to help the president.
So are we looking at the one factory, one district being effectively implemented at your place?
As we speak now, I have started the one village, one dam in my farm at my own cost, not at the cost of the government. So I'm very eager to help Nanado. Yes, and I told him I'll be the Chinubu Akudria for him.
With the structures available in the region and the national, we will complete that project and other projects. Believe in that. Thank you.
It wasn't an easy fight. But my track record, it shows. I've been a chief of about 27 years standing, and I've really served my community, especially the whole community. So everybody knows that I'm not an ordinary chief. That's why I'm sure gave me the victory. The victory already have chopped the whole of the Eastern region.
So what are you advising the president on about this region?
So those are some of the victory speeches, so to speak. Well, we've got an entrepreneur talking about what his experiences are and what he's going to do with his experience in this position. We've got a farmer talking about starting the one village, one dam already in his farm. We've got someone who's talking about completing projects. But in the studio, I've been joined by former Member of Parliament for Ningo Pram and former Minister of State, Mensah. Well, he withdrew his quest to become a Member of Council of State at the 11th hour. He's in the studio. He'll explain, tell us why. Hello, sir. Thank you very much for your time. It's good to see you.
Yeah, thank you. Good to see you too.
Okay. Are you jealous?
About
the victory speeches?
About,
could have been you.
About nothing. Because I took the decision, having analyzed it, back to back.
Back to back.
Yeah.
Tell us about the process of taking this decision. What went into it? We understand you stepped down for personal reasons.
Mm-hmm.
Tell us about it.
Yes, I did step down for personal reasons. When I found out that many people do not understand why the Council of State. The Council of State, I think, is important for us to know. That is a constitutional provision.
Right.
And in Article 89 of the Constitution, it spoke about Council of State and how it will be composed. That one former Chief Justice, when you talk about former Chief Justice, it means that the person has gone through the mill and have retired. For the sitting Chief Justice. Then it talks about the former Inspector General of Police of this country. It means that that person has served the nation, has gone through the mill and knows the ins and outs of policing and other things. And that is what you will bring to the table. He or she will bring to the table, because I'm sure one day we'll have an IGP who will be a female. And then the Chief of Staff of the Ghana Armed Forces is also someone who constitutionally should be a member. Then the President of the National House of Chiefs, In all this, they don't talk about President of NDC or MPP, but of the National House of Chiefs. Then the President is allowed to appoint 11 other members based on their competencies and his view about the people that he will be appointed. And then the clause which I took advantage of, that one other person in the 10 regions of Ghana, people will be elected, not appointed by the president. These are people whose emergence, in the process will not depend on, or they will not consult the president. And so
that was that's the clause you say you took advantage of. So that the Constitution allows that anybody who is willing can be yield himself to be elected onto this. So you took advantage of that.
Yeah, in the
but you are not an ordinary, person, so to speak, for lack of a better word. You are a founding member of the NDC, the opposition party. You campaigned vigorously against the sitting president now. You have been a Minister of State. You have been a Member of Parliament on the ticket of the opposition party. There were two conversations that were going on, the two arguments. One was that, well, this is what we need, really, that people will be able to cross the political boundary and advise, that they will give candid advice to the president. But then the other one was, how then do we even trust you after campaigning against us, after all the things you would have said against us, to give us a candid opinion, to give us advice that will make sure that we succeed in our term of office?
Let me take you through, let me finish. The process of election was made by Electoral College, according to the Constitution, and 2 members from each of the district assemblies in the jurisdiction where one decides to be elected are elected by the assemblies, not on partisan basis, and they formed the electoral college. In all this, the issue about partisanship is what we should be talking about. The arguments that you just, rolled out about me being in opposition and others, trust me, all the people who have been elected were members of one party or the other. And the framers of the Constitution, in their wisdom, knew that there should be a point of convergence where we'll look at the country. I'm aware of all the things that you're talking about. And I tell people that, look, what are we talking about? When in Parliament at the moment, the majority party is MPP. So the Constitution is quite clear. They will have to choose a Speaker of Parliament and then the first Deputy Speaker. To blend it, you bring in the second Deputy Speaker from the opposition party. We all work together. In Parliament, the majority party chooses, we have select committees. They choose the chairman of the select committee, the vice chairman, and then we have ranking members in the opposition party. And we all sit around the same table and talk about issues of governance.
But that's different.
It's not different. The color, why is it different?
So the bottom line really is that you did not see anything wrong with you wanting to be on the Council of State and to advise the presidency.
Not at all.
Why did you withdraw?
Based on our, why I withdrew was some of the things that you're talking about. When people, and I found out that there's so much ignorance about the Council of State, their composition. People don't know what it is all about and what it's supposed to do. And then if you get elected onto the council and you go and give wrong advice to the president will not take it. Let's not, underrate the intelligence and competence of the president. Coming from opposition, the campaign platform is different from when you get to what? It's because people have not been observing what we do in Parliament. When you go to committee level, no MPP NDC will discuss issues dispassionately and arrive at conclusions which we always believe will endure to the benefit of the state. There has never been a time that anyone can tell me.
So it was the concerns raised over the partisanship, the partisan nature of your candidacy that made you withdraw?
Not really.
But it was one of them.
Some of our own people in NDC were angry. The people suddenly, formed surrogate associations like Concerned Youth of Kantangbe Concerned Youth, and they were opposing. One doesn't understand where they're coming from. What is it that they know about it? What were they opposing? You don't just oppose them.
So people in your party were angry. People on the other side were not willing to accept you. That's one of the reasons why you...
Not really. I listened to all the arguments, and like we were saying, if you talk about campaign against, the president, have you ever heard me insulting any president from president before? And President Akufo-Addo. I understand politics. I know what it means. I understand what political class means. And then this issue, the issue about coloring everything, I think we need to grow. It happens in offices. People, you move to offices, and then when you take your chair, you find people coming from various angles coming to tell you, this man, that woman, is MPP, so be careful and all that. And it has never worked. I have never been that kind of person. I can give you several examples.
There are people who said that you saw or you envisaged that you were not going to win, that you envisaged that, look, this is not going to work. There's no way I'm going to be successful in this, and that's why you withdrew, especially the way you did it at the very 11th hour.
It's quite interesting. Well, that is absolutely wrong. I've won several elections. I've won elections. I've been a member of parliament for 20 years. Won elections, and I have run various races left and right, and I go into it and win. Before I step into it, I do my analysis. I do the analysis, and it was because of that. The mischief was too much. The mischief. And why the mischief? And
why do you think the mischief was too much, especially for you, when people have said that, oh, let's encourage this, let's encourage bipartisan inclusion or sort. Why do you think the mischief?
Do you know the
there?
number of people who supported me? I didn't just move in, and it's like I knew those who have organized those, surrogate organizations. I won't mention their names.
It would be good if you mentioned the names.
I will not mention anybody's. I knew them, and
yes,
I knew they did not know what they were doing.
They did not know what they were doing.
They didn't understand what they were.
But these were members within your party.
They had a purpose.
These were members within your party.
I don't know.
Or were members in the NPP.
What I'm saying is that the mischief was too much, and I knew those behind it, and they had their own reasons and purposes why they were doing that.
On both sides, both the people who were angry.
I want to tell you, listen, some of the things that they said were wrong.
Okay.
That why should I be there? I didn't just jump in. There were people from across the aisle who, before the election were held, there are friends of mine who called and said, this time around, you have to go to the Council of State. I mentioned Jerry Thompson. He told me when the election was over, Honorable Ajak, and many friends said, go to the Council of State. I just laughed it over. And then later on, it turned out that the Council of Elders of NDC Greater Accra Region, there was a post on the social media that we are a member of the Council of Elders.
Okay.
That we have chosen somebody when we haven't. And I had not even seen it. When I met various people and they persuaded me, then I started thinking about it. Okay. And then we went to a meeting of the Council of Elders. And they had also heard about it. Some of the people who encouraged me were on that Council of Elders. So the issue was tabled, discussed dispassionately, and they decided to support me.
Okay.
Then another meeting was held at La Palm. And that meeting was a meeting of members of Gandangwe, NDC Gandangwe group.
They also
65 people were at that meeting. The issue was supported, and the decision was taken that everybody must participate in campaigning for me to go.
Okay.
So it is not true that I just jumped in. Oh, what does he want? Is on this, is on that. Those are normal things that I don't think about. Otherwise, I will not be voting for that.
So from what you tell me, even within the party, there was consensus, there was an understanding, there was an agreement that E.T. Mensah should be on the Council of State, advising President Akufo-Addo.
Precisely, because you talk about the regional, I'm talking about the regional, not the national.
The regional executive,
endorsed,
the regional leadership.
And many, many people, let me tell you, 2 days ago, before the election, the day before the election, there was a program at IEA. I was invited. Bishop Pamaboko, there were some Supreme Court judges. The cream of society, where some people were there. When they saw me, they asked me how, they were so happy that, I was going to run.
Okay. So then why?
Why I had to stop? You have to listen. I decided to withdraw because of my grandchildren.
Your grandchildren? Some
grandchildren in the U.S. They picked some of the insults. What are the things that were said? You haven't gone, so you have no idea. And they found that out. My grandpa, they spoke to the daddy said, they should themselves send me something. And they said, the first one who led my first grandchild.
The revolution.
Who led the revolution is in the medical school in the U.S. And the others, the young ones, and they got the young ones, they all signed.
And they called, he said, Grandpa, this is not worth it.
Yeah, this is not worth it because why? You want to serve, you serve the nation, you want to say this is call to service. And when people engage in this kind of mischief, why should you? And the way it was going on, last minute, I was touched by the young ones.
And then you decided to withdraw.
So you have to listen to them because there's always life after politics. After politics, they are the ones who will be around me and needed for ones to listen to them.
Okay. Well, Sam Okujetu has been speaking about what kind of Council of State we should expect. Now, you have spoken about people not knowing, people being ignorant about the work of the Council of State. I'd like for you to watch this, and then when we come back, we'll talk. I'll pick your brains on what Samuel Kudzeto is saying about the kind of Council of State that we should expect this time around.
Right.
I mean, I'm supposed to serve my country. Why shouldn't I be happy to serve?
Okay. But some have said that this Council of State is a toothless bulldog. Recently, Supreme Court decisions have said that it cannot even have its rules and regulations or advice it gives to the executive president of the country being followed. Are you going to serve on a board whose advice may be thrown out or deemed not to be binding on the executive president?
Well, the Constitution did not give them authority to compel the president. And we should draw a distinction between an advisor, a counselor, as opposed to someone who has authority and power. They are two different things. But that does not mean that you should not have a counselor. The counselors are always useful for anybody and everybody, even every individual needs a counselor, because you may be going wrong. Someone needs to point it out to you. We always say that in our own adage, and said, when you are cutting a path in the bush, it's only the man who is behind you who can tell whether it is straight or crooked.
But the idea is also that if you tell me it is straight or crooked, I'm supposed to take heed, correct my path, and move in the right direction. To the extent that it is mostly seen and we are told that these advices go unheeded and the president turn on their own to disregard the advice from the Council of State, regardless of what form or mode they actually give this particular advice. And the huge expenditure we are told recently that goes into this particular council's engagement. The fact that recruitment or people who get to be serving there, except those who are actually done through political appointments and people of astute nature, those who are elected based on electoral college that is de facto partisan, is this really a body worth keeping?
There is nothing wrong in having a partisan election. To tell you the truth, the elections are meant to be non-partisan. But we all know, of course, the party is involved in it. You might as well just tell me that the United States Senate is toothless. Or you tell me that the House of Lords in England is useless, so we should abolish it.
But they have special enforcement powers.
No.
It just doesn't have.
They all have powers to act one way or the other. But you may find out that it's depending on the way they relate to the presidency. That if a rapport is built in such a way that the president has such confidence in them, he himself will be calling them often for advice. Or they will call him to advise him if they see something going wrong in a country. So it's part of machinery. It is not perfect. And I would prefer that we should find a way of perfecting it. But that is not the reason why I should reject to serve, merely because of that.
But shouldn't you, being a very bold person, being a man who's astute and understand the laws of this country, shouldn't be you at this age be recommending either a replacement of this body with a much more effective, powerful one that can do the work properly?
Maybe you are not getting the picture of what I'm driving at. What I'm saying is that it's all right for me to be outside and be criticizing the institution when I have not been involved in it. I know its weakness, and I have advocated. Indeed, I can even tell you that if you like, you can go and interview President Kufuor, that he and I had discussed it when he came into office to talk about how we can reform and transform that into a more powerful body. But then I told him that it cannot be done because it's a constitutional provision.
But constitutions can be amended.
Oh, yes, of course. But he cannot go and amend constitution. There's a whole process of it.
So you think, should that process start now?
But the process already started long ago.
Yes.
That
process stalled. That constitutional review process was completely symbolic.
There was no reason why it should have been stalled, because a lot of money, millions of dollars was spent on that thing. The report is there. The proper thing is to bring the report. Why was it not implemented? Why was it not implemented? Because someone was not desirous of bringing about the changes.
So what kind of Council of State would you want to see?
I want to see a Council of State which is more powerful, but perhaps even more inclusive. So that you can have people of acumen, people of experience and knowledge who can be there as a proper guide to the presidency. And perhaps even from reference that when Parliament passes a law or a proposed law has come there, they can make a proper input to ensure that the law has been properly debated, argued, and that whatever is coming is going to be in the interest of the country and also in the interest of the presidency and governance.
Well, Sam Okujeto is one of the people who have been appointed to be on that committee. However, you've heard what he has to say. He speaks about making it more inclusive and more powerful, because basically what they tell the president is not binding as we know it. What should change, as far as you're concerned, to make the Council of State more powerful?
First of all, let me say that I agree with him that it should be more inclusive. And what I want to expect is that the Council of State should also, you don't have to wait for issues to be brought by the president for advice. You have to take, some initiatives. You'll be surprised. When I went to all the 16 districts in Accra, engaged the various members individually and collectively, and I told them what we want to bring to the table, that we expect that when we are there, now we're talking about deepening democracy or inclusiveness.
What was it that you were bringing on board that was so special, that would have changed the face of the Council of State for the better?
No one person on the council can change anything, but you have to bring your ideas, what you think has to be dealt with. I've been a mayor for Accra for 10 years. I've gone around the world to conferences, workshops. I've seen systems work. And on my rounds, I'll try to get a report and send it to you. The concerns from both MPP and DC. And it was quite, revealing that where we have got to now, we need to strengthen the local government institutions that we're practicing. And they were saying that we should not be looking at MPP and DC, but what everybody is bringing to the table.
Okay.
So I believe that there's a need for some changes in the operations, and as Mr.
Okujeto said, changes should come from
there's a report which I've been written, the Constitutional Review report, I've a copy, I've read it, and I know there are certain things that has to be done. And the operating work is all inclusiveness. We're talking about winner takes all, concern about winner takes all. How do we address winner takes all?
How does the Council of State, we're looking at how the Council of State's advice becomes binding in any way, or that the ways that we could make the Council of State much more effective than people think it is right now.
He just spoke about the report, the Constitutional Review report. Some proposals have been put in there. We don't have time yet to go into all those details. Okay. But there's a need for some reforms to make it more, effective, and the advice binding on
them. I see. What will be engaging a private legal practitioner, Daniel Segose, who is a junior partner with the Kolendi at Law, on Skype very soon about what he thinks. He is one of the people who were engaged in a debate on the relevance of the Council of State in these times. And so it'll be interesting to pick his thoughts on what has happened so far. Honorable, before I let you go, I'd like to take your what you think of the crop of people who we're having on the Council of State now. I mean, we've seen those who are winning, especially with the one of the persons you may have been contending with, Nico Tejani, for instance. We've got representatives in the Ashanti region, well, across the country. Sam Okujeto is one of them. What do you make of these people?
I don't understand exactly what you want me to say, because these are people that the only person I know well is Sam Okujeto. And the people there, those appointed, we know their pedigree, and we believe, I know their pedigree, I know what they will bring to the table, but there are others that I don't know, so I cannot talk about what I don't know. Okay,
I'll return to you, but let me speak to Daniel Segose. Like I said, he's a junior partner with Kolendi at Law. Hi, Daniel. Thank you very much for your time. Sincere apologies for keeping you on the line for so long.
That's okay, Gifty, and it's been wonderful listening to this our very honorable and elderly statesman, E.T. Mensah, speak. So the time has been worth, waiting to hear from you.
Right. Now, let's talk about, you have been one of the people who were in a debate that was seeking answers to the relevance of a Council of State. You've seen what happened yesterday. Now, he is one of the people who was his inclusion or his bid to be on the ticket or to be his bid to be on the Council of State itself attracted a lot of interesting comments and a lot of controversy as well. What do you make of the process so far? I understand, by the way, that there was a stalemate at the debate. You could not really get to a conclusion on the matter.
That's right. It tells you how very much this issue has divided Ghanaians and how interesting it is. But to get back to what you were saying, I was listening to you earlier, and then our very early statesman, E.T. Mensah, and why his bid to be on the Council of State generated so much interest. Because for some of us, we have held the view that this whole notion of a bipartisan Council of State has never come into existence. So for the very first time, we witnessed a situation where at least we can argue that there is somebody on the Council of State whom we know has a very strong opinion and can critique the sitting president. So it's very unfortunate that E.T. Mensah, Honorable's grandchildren could prevail on him to withdraw, because it would have been near to the benefit of the country as a whole, and then actually deepened our democracy in respect of the Council of State.
But it's interesting that you say that, because people have said that, look, we're in this country, we've got to be realistic. How realistic is it that we're looking at bipartisanship, yes, but what has been the track record of this country when it comes to bipartisan conversations and agreements? Is it realistic to expect that a founding member of the NDC would be advising the president, or an NPP-led president, realistically, really?
It is realistically, it is possible, but and this brings us to one of the reasons why some of us argue that this whole notion of the Council of State ought to be done away with, because we are first of all not privy to even the deliberations that they have. So how do we know whether or not somebody is critiquing the government, president, or not? So that is even the starting point.
Okay.
Because their meetings are held in camera, we are not privy to what they discuss. So it is possible that somebody will then speak against what the president is advising, or in consulting the president has a contra opinion. But unfortunately, we are not privy to say. So I think realistically it is possible, and that once they open up these reforms that are being proposed by, I heard Uncle Sam speaking of proposals and amendments, all of this can bring to the fore their deliberations, and then it will help our democracy, and then the input of the Council of State will be felt.
So the starting point really is some kind of amendments that ensures that the conversation that goes on between the Council of State and the president, the kind of advice that they give to him, will be made public. So, for instance, in the Muntie 3 case, that we would have known what the position of the Council of State was.
Correctly, and Gifty, that is because the constitutional provision, their sittings are in camera, and it is only the council itself that may allow the general public or neutral persons to attend their meeting. And very important, and that's, for me, I'm very happy that Uncle Sam is a member of the Council of State now.
Okay.
Because in a matter where he took the Bank of Ghana to court, the court made a finding of fact that it is even possible that meetings of the Council of State are not recorded down into minutes.
Okay.
And that deliberations, there's possible that you go through their record and then you will not find any evidence of deliberation. So until we get past that hurdle, we are all in the dark and wondering what they are sitting there and doing in the privacy of the meeting.
I see. Okay, well, I'm going to let you go, but before that, let me find out what you make of the process yesterday. Yesterday, we went through the elections, and, well, there have been concerns that there is some kind of monetization there. There's some kind of partisan competition in there. I don't know the extent to which you followed the process, but what do you make of it?
Well, Gifty, partisanship when it comes to the Council of State, we've all argued it, and that's why some of us have, argued for it being scrapped. Had Honorable E.T. Mensah, prevailed over his grandchildren, maybe we would have been holding a contra opinion. But I believe that these are all things that, as we go along, we can clear these hurdles and make sure that it is as bipartisan as possible. So that it will then aid in the democracy. Then we can all see the usefulness and purposefulness of the Council of State.
Thank you very much. Thank you. We really appreciate your time with us here. He's a private legal practitioner. Mr. Segose has been speaking to us. He is one of the people who thought or who think that the Council of State should be scrapped. Well, if it won't be scrapped, then let's make the necessary changes that makes it more powerful, perhaps relevant. Okay, so he's showing me a picture. I'm still here with E.T. Mensah, by the way. This is the Pulse. He's showing me a picture that he's got with President Akufo-Addo, former President Kufuor, and well, two others. There it is. Hopefully our cameras will be able to capture so you have a look. So does this not mean that, well, people who think that you have not, you are an NDC person begin to say, okay, so all along you've been doing things behind our back with with NPP. And
let me explain the source of this picture.
Okay, we've got to make that really quick.
Millennium Challenge delegation in Washington.
Okay, 2006.
Yeah, 2006. I was in opposition. I was in a minority whip.
Okay.
And the delegation was to be sent to go and negotiate, discuss this millennium, the compact one there.
Okay, so you were the only person on the minority?
I will explain to you. Three of us, two of us were the minority, three were in majority, and we went.
Okay.
While we worked together, nobody knew about MPP NDC. This picture, we met the Ghanaian community at one of the halls. I knew I was a minority, as I was with my people down there, and all the other members of parliament. And then President Kufuor saw me, said, hey, and he invited me to come on the stage to join them, that we are one here. And that is the style of President Kufuor. President Kufuor was made the very first local government minister, PhD secretary by President Rawlings. I was made the first chief executive of Accra. I worked with him closely. We've worked with Nanado and others. So that is the point that I'm making, that the public do not know how close we are.
They don't know how close you are with
all of us in parliament.
How close all the politicians are.
Yes,
well, I think we've got a bit of an idea. But let me pick your thoughts on what's happening in parliament. You've been in parliament for so long. Recently, there's been a bribery allegation that is still being probed in parliament, and people have said that it has battered the image of parliament. What do you make of it?
To be honest with you, having been a member of parliament, I know the rules and regulations, and I do not want to speak to this issue. The issue has been given to a competent, committee which has been put in place by the Speaker of Parliament, and I don't think that I have a comment on it until the issue has been determined, the report is out, we can talk about it. But now that it's before that committee, the committees in Parliament and sometimes could tell us to, court, high court and that kind of stuff. So when the thing is being discussed at that level, you sitting out there should not be critiquing what they're doing.
Not critiquing per se. I mean, they've been sitting. They sat for the first time on Wednesday. Today they were supposed to sit. They adjourned. So we can look at the general issue, not necessarily about the substantive bribery matter.
As a former member of parliament, I don't think that I have to.
You don't think that you have to?
Yeah.
What about
however, in no cause, my intervention will not be right.
What about the people who say that it has battered Parliament's image? Do you think the Parliament's image has been bruised and battered by things, this one and previous ones?
I'm able to speak to this issue when the report is out.
I see. Okay. Well, I'm going to let you go. But do you feel? How do you feel? Do you feel bad about, because even though your grandchildren prevailed on you not to go ahead, do you feel? You seem to feel very disappointed by the way everything went. You feel disappointed, don't you?
I'm always, there's one prayer that I love that I've lived with. that God should grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. And I believe that this decision I've taken is to the best of my conviction. It's right.
Okay. Well, I'll say a very big thank you once again. Of course, unless you've got some final words.
Oh, I want to thank you for this opportunity.
Okay.
And as I said a short while ago off camera, I can give you the list of the delegates, and they were rooting for me. So if anybody thinks that because I thought I was going to lose, that was why I pulled out, is absolutely not correct. I would have cleared it.
Okay.
But, you know, circumstances demanded that.
Okay.
You know,
so what
that's
next?
why it was withdrawn last minute.
What next?
What next?
Yes.
Life, you know, as usual.
As usual. Are you going to be advising the president from, you know, the, not necessarily on the council, but from where you sit, since you are quite close to them, you say?
The point that I'm making is that I'm just showing how close parliamentary members are with their leaders, with in the political class. There is a political class.
So will you be advising the president somehow, or putting in some words of advice here and there, every now and then?
When we get to that bridge, we'll cross it.
Okay, thank you very much. E.T. Mensah, and Octave Mensah, to be precise, is former Member of Parliament for Ningo Pram, and he wanted to be on the Council of State, but he says the controversy, the interest, the insults prevailed upon him, his grandchildren, who then prevailed upon him to step down. And so he did, even though he was very confident that he was going to win and that he had surveyed all the 16 districts, and the response was quite positive. On the other hand, though, he's not interested in talking about the bribery probe that's happening in Parliament, because he's been a Member of Parliament before and he believes that the rules are clear. You should not engage.